Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Founders Grid. Today we have Darrell. Darrell is the co-founder of Thinkful. Darrell, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I have my cat joining me, as it turns out, for at least the beginning part.
So, so what's the name of the cat? If you have any questions for
If
him
we
or
have
her.
any questions for the cat's name is Junko, named after Junko Tabei, the first woman to climb Everest.
Okay, that's amazing. So, Thinkful, eighth year into the journey. How's the journey been so far? How you all started? So, give us a brief background before we get into Thinkful. Give us a brief background what you've been doing before Thinkful, actually.
Yeah, I'm here in New York. I'm a lifelong New Yorker. My parents still live in the city. Um, I started my career in finance, but moved to tech in 2008. Started a company in 2009, and we sold it to Dell in 2012, and then started Thinkful with my co-founder in later that year, and then sold it to Jag last October, so about 6 months ago.
Nice, nice. So, how's the journey been? So you've seen the full cycle of the journey from starting the company towards the acquisition. So let's start.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the early days of Thinkful. The first 2 years, the product market fit, the finding the best customers, making the whole team work, and everything. So, can you share those stories with us?
Yeah, how much time do you have? The founding of Thinkful, we were in a moment when everyone thought that, if you remember, MOOCs were going to take over all of education. So MOOC is a video of a lecture from a traditional classroom, and for some reason, everyone thought that was going to replace college, and they were very popular. Lots of people started watching those videos online, and we said, I'm not sure that's how we ever learned. The way that I had always learned was from having a mentor, from an internship, from being in rooms where there were people smarter than me. And we said, let's bring that to everybody. How do we do that? So we just started off very, very quickly saying, this is October 2012, saying, like, well, let's start a class where we're the mentors. There's a curriculum of learning something, and let's see if we can find any students for it. Let's see if we can teach that thing. Let's do it online and see if we can use video chat for that. In 2012, there was no Zoom yet.
Mhm.
But that was the first instinct. And then about 5 months later, by mid-February, we had something that looked like it was kind of working. But a few remarkable things happened in those first few months, that first 6 months, which were, number one, people trusted us. We were charging what at the time seemed like a huge amount of money, and it still is. And except the prices have gone up, and we should come back to that later. But we said we should charge people $300 a month for taking 3-month classes to learn tech skills online from a live mentor, someone that can give you feedback, using a curriculum that we developed on an online platform that wasn't much to speak of at all at the time. But we learned these amazing lessons, which is that people wanted it, people trusted it, people trusted us to deliver it, and then they were happy when we did. And it was remarkable, right? We're not accredited, we're not a school, but we were a school because people wanted to learn from us. So those first few months were really about figuring that out, and then once we did, we spent from about February or March 2013 to kind of mid 2014 growing, I think, average 26% month over month, which from a very small base, but it compounds very quickly. And so those first year and a half were really fast learning. It was initial product market fit. It got us kind of that 0 to 1 stage. There's a lot of roads we could go down around. We could talk about from there. We could talk about the products we built, the software we built or didn't build, the tools we had, the team we had at that time, any number of different stories to tell from those early days.
Interesting. So, it's been a tough space, online learning, convincing investors, everything, especially in 2020, in 2012, I can imagine. Now it's the today's where it's acting as a catalyst for the same industry, right? So, did you face any challenges while raising the early capital or something like that?
Yeah, we had what would now be called a pre-seed round, but we absolutely did have a lot of trouble. I ran our fundraisers and we found great investors, but it's hard. It's always hard. It's actually exceedingly rare for it to not be extremely hard. Most fundraisers are very, very difficult, and most successful ones have dozens and dozens of no's along the way to any single or multiple yeses. So that was our experience. Online education is hard. it's competitive and you don't have natural moats, and so you have to be very good about go-to-market strategy and clean and clear about your unit economics. And I will say though, education overall has more shots on goal and smaller upside. So what you're looking for when we talk to investors is someone that understands that. Meaning, you can't, if your investor is looking for the next YouTube or the next Uber, the next Snap, it's tough to find that in education, and it's a lot more common to find education companies that are very big successes, and there's a lot more of them. The percentage likelihood of doing that is a lot higher than it is finding the next Uber. But the valuations are not $40 billion. So there's fewer of those massive grand slams. To mix my sports metaphors, fewer grand slams, but more shots on goal.
Yeah,
I'm not going to stick with my mixed metaphor until someone tells me not to.
Yeah. So remote work, we at Gaper are big advocates of remote, and we've seen that because of COVID, the remote work has kind of like everyone has been just forced to go remote, from traditional institutions to other typical companies, right? So how are you able to manage your team remotely, and especially different departments when it comes down to sales as well as the engineering as well as the learning? I believe the learning element has always been online, but what about the other elements? Are you able to be as productive as you were before? If yes, the top 3 practices that you've adopted at Thinkful to make it much more functional.
Yeah, I mean, so we were very lucky in that we started as a remote team about 5 years ago, when we had some folks in our New York office that wanted to leave the city for personal reasons. They would come in, and this happened like 3 times in a summer. They said, I love working at Thinkful, but my partner or my family is in my home state and I want to go back there. Can I do that? And, first we were very hesitant. We didn't understand it and blah, blah, blah. And eventually we just started letting people do it. And we actually, those folks on the team stayed with Thinkful for many, many years. And that was the sort of first step, is realizing that we could keep our great talent that wanted to be there and wanted to be the soul of the company. A small team, hard to lose people. And then the next chapter, that was when we realized that when we were really hiring quickly, and we really doubled the team in about 8 months, we doubled the size of the team. And when we did that, it was very obvious that if we allowed hiring remotely, it would open up a far greater talent pool than we could get if we stuck to just New York. So New York is great. I'm going to stay in New York. I love New York, but a lot of people don't live in New York, like it or not. And so hiring them works really well. So the team, we grew organically into becoming a remote company. And then we acquired a remote company. We acquired a company that was not remote, and they became remote, and they really enjoyed it. And then overall, as a manager, what you learn is that all the same tools you're always supposed to have as a manager, and all the bad habits you're supposed to shed, it's the same thing. You just have to be a little bit more deliberate about it. So meetings with clear agendas and goals. Don't manage people by knowing when they're at their desk versus when they're actually, if they're producing their work. Manage output, not manage the work they're doing rather than the hours they're putting in. And all the same management things that you should do as a good manager. You just have to be a little bit more deliberate about it. So overall, it's the same experience. There's communication challenges, and culture is a bit different, and blah, blah, blah. But now what you find is a lot of people choose companies because it's remote friendly, and it lets them run a much more healthy, long-lasting lifestyle that brings a lot more creativity for them, and it brings a more diverse workforce as well.
Got it. Darrell, thank you so much for being on the show. We would have loved to continue, but my marketing team tells me I have to keep it within 8 to 10 minutes. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely.